motorcycles.
All right. In the words of Andre 3000, welcome to another episode of Tackle and Tacos, a fishing podcast. My name is Jordan, one of the hosts, coming to you from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. You also have on the other side of the screen, or audio if you're listening, my friend Nate from Davenport, Iowa, although he probably should live in Wisconsin, honestly. He's a Packer fan. The fishing's better here, whatever. But we don't need to get into all that. Nate, how the crap are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Other than the cold and the snow, you guys got a lot going for you up there. So
yeah,
you're not wrong, but
yeah, I don't know this for sure. Maybe it's just like a racial thing. But do you ice skate, Nate?
I have, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can ice skate. But,
you can, yeah. Yeah, I remember one time, because I don't know if everybody knows this about me or not, but I didn't fully, but kind of grew up in the hood when I was younger, only because my parents got a divorce. My mom had no money, and then I just became friends. Like all my friends when I was growing up were just, black kids in the ghetto. I cannot remember where we were, if I ever told the story, but I think we were like 12 or 13, somewhere in that age range. And this one dad, he was like a church dad. He was trying to be all friendly, whatever. And he asked my friend David, who is black and from the hood, he's like, "Hey, David, whatever, blah, 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 hockey, you know how to ice skate?" And David looked at him like he was just crazy. like of course, I don't know how to ice skate. No, I don't even know what hockey is. I don't know how to ice skate. I'm a tropical people. No, I don't, whatever. But anyway, but yeah, you should definitely consider moving up here. So we were talking to our guests that we're about to have back on, and that's like my favorite thing. If you have somebody on for a second time, either A, they must just be real bored and have nothing better to do.
Yeah.
B, you must have created like a friendship there. And that's honestly that's like my favorite thing about podcasting, honestly. It's just networking, creating friends, linking up with people, and just knowing people and who they know. And I don't know, it's just kind of fun. But I'm really excited to have Matt Johnson, CEO of Omnia Fishing, back on the show. Omnia, and let me just say this up front right out of the gates, this is not like a sponsor obligation. We're not sponsored by Omnia. They're just a really dope company who, I've said this a few times about different products here and there, but they're a company that's like, if you, as a skateboarder, I mean, I'm kind of old for it now, but if you go to a skate park and it's just like, like just crap all over that doesn't make any sense, has no flow, here's a ramp, here's a rail, you can tell it was just a town that like, oh, we need a skate park, and they just put it together. It makes no sense. And then you can go to another skate park, it could even be smaller, but it has more flow. Everything's laid out right because it was by skateboarders. Like it just, they're part of like that culture, that vibe, and they put it together. So it makes more sense. Omnia screams like this is a fishing company, fishing brand, fishing app built by fishermen. They just like the stuff just makes sense for fishing. And so I'm really excited to have him back on, talk about the app and like the mapping systems, which I use. I could honestly, I think I could say that Omnia, more than Google Earth, more than Active Captain, more than anything, I think is the mapping system I use, especially on bodies of water that I'm not super familiar with. Yeah, I mean, would you agree, Nate?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's an awesome resource.
Yeah.
That I'm super stoked to talk about. It's even got right now I've got it pulled up on my phone. It's got, stuff for Mississippi River Pool 13 that I can look at and hint at, try to get some tips and tricks and any helpful stuff for the next derb coming up. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, for me at least, with Omnia and any mapping system, but when you get it dialed in, is eliminating water. Like, all right, so if you have a general idea of water temps or what phase the fish are in or where they may be, you can go through an app like Omnia and all the different layers they have as far as like surface temps and bottom hardness and vegetation and blah, 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 blah. You can go through and be like, okay, so that's not it. And that's not it. And that's not, you can just really like get more efficient. And really like, I think we talk about stuff like that with mapping and study, like it's only a tournament thing. But like, if you're taking your kids out fishing, they don't want to be riding around the boat all day, wasting time, not being on.
For sure.
it pertains to more than just, dorks like you and me being like derby fishermen. Like it works for everybody. So really stoked to talk to him. And before we hit record, we were talking just real briefly about baseball. And I have to just get this off my chest. I think they just won tonight, but the Cubs, as far as I know, are the only or the second ever team to have two different 10-game win streaks and a 10-game losing streak in the same season. Like, my God in heaven, the wheels fell off. And of course, the Brewers, who I think I hate more than anything. I mean, I just hate the Brewers. I hate their team. I hate their coach, even though it's weird now that their old manager is our manager. I hate their logo. I hate that they have a giant closing thing on their stadium, but it takes like 4 hours to close. So what the F is the point? Like, if it starts thundering, you still got to cancel the game anyway. Like, whose idea was that? I have an idea. Let's have a retractable roof. Great idea. How long will it take? 10 minutes? 4 hours. Perfect. Like, what the? Hate the Brewers. But now the Brewers are in first because the Cubs just wheels fell off. And then, oh my gosh. But you've been paying attention at all to the Cubbies this year, Nate? I know you've been busy with like life baseball, kid baseball.
Yeah. So with life and kid baseball, it actually has brought me, I'd say, a little bit closer to keeping up with games, watching players, and showing plays and stuff like that. So we've actually been able to watch a little bit of the games here and there. My son he's a big Shohei fan for some reason, so
Okay.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah,
He's kind of a stud. So yeah,
I mean, like you hear that a lot, but he really is kind of like a generational talent. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Are just silly. I really like Pete Crow, Armstrong. I really like Alex Bregman. I mean, there's a lot of Cubs players I like too, but Shohei is a whole different like class.
Yeah, for sure. So my anytime the kids have a good game, they do a good player, good game or something like that, the head coach hands out baseball cards. And it was like after the second or third game, Madison got a PCA card. He was all jacked up about it.
He's a cool dude, man. He's like the Dennis Rodman of the Cubs, like just colorful, good at what he does, himself, unapologetic, kind of weird.
Yes.
Let's burn through the sponsors and socials. Then we'll bring Matt in. We'll talk mapping. We'll talk about who knows what, some tacos. Hopefully he's been to some new spots. I know the cities in Minnesota has some really dope taco joints. And yeah, so let's get after it. So number one, if you want to follow us on socials, it's just at Tackle and Tacos, Tackle AND Tacos. Same thing with the website, tackleandtacos.com. And then for sponsors, let me pull up the little ticker here. I can put it on the screen. We have Grizzly Coolers, which is our presenting sponsor. If you use the code WCB at checkout, you'll get 15% off. Leupold Optics, makers of my favorite polarized sunglasses I've ever worn. I think they look good. I think they feel good. I think they're durable. I like that good kind of blend of not light but not like super heavy. I had some Ray-Ban polarized sunnies back in the day that I had just for style, and they were so heavy. Like by a whole day of tournament, they were just breaking your nose. But anyway, Denali Fishing, love their stuff. The new DLE series. Now that you've had your hands on it for a while and a couple of them, Nate, what you think?
It's absolutely amazing. The sensitivity is next level. Like
super.
I wasn't sure how I would like that carbon style handle and grip, but man, I love it. I absolutely love it because I'm a big cork guy, also EVA foam. Like I just like traditional, and that's kind of a little bit outside of that, but it's it's legit. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Stupid light.
Wildly light. Yeah.
Light. Yeah, they feel really good. I'll bet you I've caught, not just because it's that brand. It's just my main one is the 7'2" medium, which is like the perfect rod for wacky rigging, which is one of those like techniques that I've always sort of like pushed back against, just because like it always works. And I'm like, oh, I want to catch them on a crankbait. I want to catch them on I want to catch them on a free rig, whatever. And you go throw the wacky and it just worked. Wacky or Nico, whatever. And that rod for it is perfection. It's super light. You feel the slightest little sniff on that rod. It's dirty. And then Moldy's Marine. Of course, we are so pumped to work with Jeremy Moldrum, moldysmarine.com. Dude is a gator step installer, electronic rigger upper, does basically everything you could need on the boat. And he's even mobile. Like if you need him to come to you, grab your boat, bring it back, wet sand it, he's the dude. And Northland Insurance Services. So I don't have any up here right now, but our buddy Brian Beebe, he donates tons of lures and stuff to us that we give out to people on our socials and all that. NorthlandInsuranceServices.com. Cool idea to have somebody doing your insurance who is also a stick fisherman and knows the kind of stuff you need, knows, you know, the ins and out of that kind of game. Is that it, Nate? We got anything else to go through? Should we bring the man in?
Yeah, I think you tackle it all as well as always. So let's get Matt in here. Let's talk some Omnia fishing stuff.
Yeah, so like we said, Matt Johnson, great last name, great human being, great hair, just like you and I are working on, which is to say not much. He hasn't really had anything rub off from his homie Seth yet, but he's an entrepreneur. He's an honest person, good vibes, intelligent, and Omnia, again, not a sponsor. And I only say that because I think that makes it a little different. You know, like if somebody's coming on here, oh, this blah, blah, blah is the best. Oh, and we're sponsored by him. It's like, okay, well, that's why they're the best. I see. We're not sponsored by Omnia. You know what I mean? So it's an honest, like just barfing of the truth. So, yeah, let's bring him in. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Bring him to the stage now. Matt Johnson of Omnia Fishing. Hey.
What's up? What's up, guys? Yeah, this I lost my hair at 19 years old, so I never developed a complex. I didn't have time for that. It just I was bald immediately. That's all anybody has ever known me.
You've been bald since you were 19?
Something like that.
Whoa, that's
maybe 20, maybe 20.
Here, look at this. I mean, I'll be, you know, she's going.
Yeah,
and then
just gotta embrace it.
Yeah, Nate is also bald. Yeah,
perfect.
We're normally slick top like you, Matt, but I've been slacking on the shaving here lately. So
yeah, I've been going for a long time. We had, you know, Rich, obviously, right? Hellabass Rich. Yeah. So yeah, he's an Omnia guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a show with him. We've had him on a couple times. He's a good dude. And you know how he always wears those stupid visors where he cuts his hat into a visor? Well, number one, we commented that on a show one time, and like people commented like, how dare you make fun of Rich's visors? Like they got all hurt and it was so stupid. But then the second time we had him on, we actually made our own with him. And it was a very vulnerable moment to just like take my hat off and expose my ugly, like balding head and then cut the visor thing out.
And he's got a pretty nice head of hair, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got a full head.
Yeah.
He's got a big old thick dome. I say, I jerk.
Well, sometimes that's a visor. Sometimes that visor is an Omnia visor, and that's custom because we don't sell those. So I'm good. He do whatever he wants as long as that Omnia logo is repped up there. I like it.
You have no intention of coming out with an Omnia visor anytime soon, like a college coach in football?
Or the one where the hair's like stitched in the top. Maybe we do that one.
Oh, ridiculous, dude. I remember the first time I saw those, I was so thrown off. And then after like the 4,000th time, I'm like, stop wearing that thing, dude. Yeah, it kind of messed with my brain. But anyway, how are you doing, man? How's life? How are things in Minnesota?
Good. We skipped right over the spring part. We went right from winter right to summer, didn't we? It's 90 degrees outside right now.
Yeah, it's what is it here right now? It's 9 o'clock at night and it's 71, which for us in northern Wisconsin, that's still pretty freaking warm. Yeah. And it really did. I think the fish are. I was fishing a derby recently, Matt, and there was a bunch of beds that were like abandoned, and like I looked it up and I couldn't. People were like, "Oh yeah, probably all the fish got caught off of them." I'm like, I don't think so. You know, I don't. Time they say that when fish move up to beds, they don't move back until they're done. But I think they've just been so screwed up because it went from like cold to warm to cold to like super hot. Like, yeah. I think the fish are as confused as anybody else.
Yeah, it's wild. It's been hot, and I'm doing all the kids stuff at all the sports fields. So I'm outside baking in the heat, and it feels extra hot that way.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much, man, for jumping back on. We love Omnia. We love the app. We love everything about it. And you know, I think you and I were texting a little bit about how like I think Omnia mapping my favorite thing about it is being able to eliminate water. Nate and I, our first derby that we fished this year, we got a second place, you know, on a lake that we actually know. But even that though, with Omnia getting more specific, zooming in on contour lines and bottom hardness and surface water temps and blah, blah, blah. Is that, in your opinion, Matt, is that like the juice of Omnia? Because I know you're also an online store, obviously, but your mapping, in my opinion, is just the best thing you have going.
Yeah, I think we started mostly as a store, and the focus was to build that feedback loop of user-generated content. So there's over 36,000 fishing reports that have been filed on the system, and most of those are used and organized to help you shop. But my background's actually from the mapping side, and that's something we were always interested in. That's something we always wanted to pursue. And the hardest part about it is that we had a national audience right out of the gate. You guys had Seth Feider on, and immediately, as Seth Feider is one of your partners, that you have a national brand, a national audience right out of the gate. Some of the work we've done with Bassmaster. So how do you build a mapping platform that appeals to an angler in Tennessee and an angler in Texas and an angler in Iowa and Wisconsin? It's really, really hard because it's such a niche within a niche. And not only that, but it changes throughout the year. The map layers that we see people using or the map layers that people tell us they're using are changing all the time. So it's a really hard thing to bite off. We wanted to be a little bit more sizable of a company before we attacked it. But that's really become our sweet spot. And we find that most people are doing things on the app, and they're mostly engaged with their map layers at the moment, even though retail still continues to be a really great part of our business as well.
Yeah, you guys did something really unique in bridging the gap between, I think we talked about this a little bit the first time we had you on. We kept on making reference to, what was it, Chuck's Bait Shop from Grumpy Old Men.
Right.
You just did this blend where it's like, you go to Chuck's Bait Shop. Hey, Chuck, what are they biting on? Are they biting on points? Are they, like that old school deal where you're just shooting the shit with your buddy and buying minnows or whatever. But you blended this idea of that with technology, because you get that vibe where you can go to a certain lake, like, one that's real close to me right next door is Lake Wissota, and I can pull it up and there's fishing reports from so-and-so, and they've been catching them on, you and I were joking about this, jackhammer, because jackhammer's on every lake everywhere all the time, of course.
Number one bait.
Yeah, it just always work. But
nearly every season.
I mean, quite literally, it's the crazy thing. But I mean, you can get like additional insights on depth or what time of year or whatever. Yeah, I think the way that you guys blended those two worlds of technology and by looking at the fishing reports, kind of asking your buddy, hey, what are they biting on? It's pretty revolutionary, man. Like it's pretty seamless. Like it's not like there's a lot of info, but it's not hard to use.
Right. And there's a lot of lakes that have a lot of fishing reports on them. And I've said this in the past, but there's a lot of anglers that probably aren't interested in one person's perspective. If you're holding up a big fish, you're an expert in the moment, right? But it is hard to put a lot of credibility on one person's opinion, because fishing it's complex, and we really are. It is just opinions. And when somebody tells you they know better than you, I don't know that that's true. What's really interesting is now that we have so much data and so many fishing reports, mostly revolving around product, that you start to see patterns emerge. And so if you take species, season, water body, and then you take all of the information that's included in the fishing report across 25 reports, when you start to see these patterns emerge of depth range and technique and proximity to vegetation or whatever it is, you start to see these patterns emerge, and that becomes a really interesting first step as you start to break down a new body of water, start to come up with a strategy in the moment.
Yeah, and are you guys with your map? And if I ask you questions that are like that's kind of proprietary stuff, you can just tell me. You could just do this or something. But is this stuff that you guys have like analysts going in and like finding, or is there AI stuff at work here, or how does that look? Because it's like a lot of data to try and like go through.
A combination of both. But I'll tell you, so we launched what we called Omnia's AI summaries. And if you click into a lake in the app, you click on a pin, and then you click in, what's the name of this tab? It just changed recently.
Okay.
And you click in a lake, especially a high populated lake, you're going to get the best results. But if you click into the pin and you look at, let me find a good one. What's a good lake? You said Wissota. I'll find something around me in Minnesota.
Okay.
Here. So I'll click on Minnetonka. If you go to fish patterns. So fish patterns was what we originally had called kind of Omnia AI. And the reason is that the AI was doing a lot of the heavy lifting 9 months ago or a year ago. Mm-hmm. But that's changed so fast that the heavy lifting is actually coming from the analysts. It's come from how we source all of the data and all of the anglers who have participated in this community to submit this information. They never drop the pin on the location, but they do frame it up really well. Like, what bait were you using, what technique, what structure, what was the forage like? And they fill in all that information, and the AI does such a good job of parsing through all that information that those summaries are essentially the patterns that start to emerge. So we actually rebranded that and moved away from this concept of AI doing the heavy lifting, because it's basically table stakes at any point. I could give you 50 fishing reports from our system, and you could run it through ChatGPT or Claude, and it's going to give you a really fantastic output of the summary of what they're seeing and the patterns emerge. So that I'd encourage everybody to check out that fish patterns, because that's essentially what it is now. And we've just done a lot of iterations on the prompt to try and make it pull the things that we think are most important, organized it all by species and season. And then now we're just about to launch a new feature that allows us to build a full summary that you'll see that kind of first season, most popular species right on that lake page the first time you click into it.
Wow. That's nice.
Yeah. That's slick.
That's really
it's cool.
Yeah. How do you come up with the map layers that you have? You know, I was asking you that a little bit before we started recording, because you guys have everything from like bottom hardness to social maps to vegetation to normal topo stuff, whatever. And now there's like, what do you have on there? Like public grounds. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. How do you come up with maps and then actually connect the dots to make that map a thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. We have a good, talented team of real anglers, and I think a lot of times they're building the app to serve themselves, and that's a good way to make something beneficial for the customer. We also have this really incredible ambassador network that we've intentionally distributed throughout the entire United States, and they're essentially our eyes and ears that are paying attention to trends. They're paying attention to like publicly available sources of data. This year was probably our biggest year for feature releases and map layers. And we've got some really cool stuff that's still coming this year, potentially pretty soon. We're testing some things right now related to water temp and forecasting. But like we launched, I said like fishing is basically a ton of niches within this niche of fishing. It's everybody has their own attitude. Everybody has their own details on what they think are important. I think we box those. It's like we want to go to the market and ask them what's important to them. And all these ambassadors are a fantastic resource. Our customers, we do user testing with customers. We watch them use the app and they tell us about, I really wish this did this, or I wish you had this. But like a good example of this, we have an ambassador in the southern Missouri area. And he said, hey, the Missouri DNR release the exact point locations of where they've dropped artificial habitat. And so we spent a couple of weeks going out saying what other state DNR agencies have publicly available sources of their habitats that they've dropped in some of these lakes. And we found like 15 of them. And so what we've done is we've tried to box all the information, because as you mentioned, there's like almost too much there that changes every season and is like, you guys might not care about water level or dam offsets or, some of these managed water bodies where they're maintaining the water levels. But somebody in the Tennessee River Valley cares a whole lot about that. So how do you shoehorn something like that into an app that doesn't get in your guys' way is really, really a big challenge. And so I think that step is kind of discovery that something exists or is in demand, sourcing or creating if we need it to be first party data. And then third is how does it fit within our theory on how to create a good fishing app? And so we've got lakes, maps, and so that's anything that's like covering the water body. We've got weather and other, so lunar, best times to fish, overhead, underfoot, things, things like that, majors and minors. And then we have points of interest. And what we've done is tried to figure out how does it fit really well within one of those categories. And it's hard to do, but I think we've hit our stride. And so now it almost feels like once we source or we identify a layer that we want, we can get it built in faster. And it just cleanly, we understand where it's going to fit, where it's going to live. And that's really been the focus of ours this year. You mentioned that public layer. I was actually on my way to Menards, some good old Claire company. And I looked out on the highway and there was 12 people standing around this lake. And I thought, how do they even know that they can access it there? Yeah. And so I said, that's a niche. That's a niche of people who want to run out real quick for an hour and they want to fish from shore. Well, are they limited to the only places that they know are very obviously public, or can I give them a resource? And so we just built in a national public land layer that has all of the access points. You can see it from the roads, anything that surrounds a water body, anything that has potential part-time restrictions, like waterfowl production areas and things like that. And we built it into this color format that you can turn that layer on, and you can immediately go pick up a new body of water. And us upper Midwest anglers, tens of thousands of water bodies to access. You can jump in to a stream. It's just so many options. And so it really has been trying to hit our stride on how do you get the information in there to not clutter it all up. And I originally thought that our message was like, we need to tell everybody that it's the most comprehensive fishing app on earth. And I was like, man, that just doesn't land. It doesn't work. Know your response to that. So you gotta do a better job of explaining what's in it for them at the moment.
Man, that's all. And I love that. I love that the public thing, you're appealing so specifically to shore anglers. Like, it's not just guys with $100,000 bass boats. Like, it's guys who fish. Like I was talking about earlier, eliminating water isn't just a tournament thing. If you're going out with your kiddos or your wife or your grandma, like, you don't want to waste time running in circles. Like, find the stuff that's going to be the juiciest stuff. And I think it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And we launched our DNR data. So any of the survey data for any of the states that have run their own fishing surveys and fish Florida and Minnesota and some of those other lakes. And we put all that information in there that if somebody just wants to catch a big crappie or a big sunfish for their kid, go to the lake where the DNR surveyed that lake and found some big fish, or in high abundance, high numbers. All that data is in there. And I think that helps you have a better chance of catching a fish and maybe hooking your kid on the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate, what do you? Sorry, I've been blabbing. I have so many questions in my head.
No, you're killing it. I love listening to this stuff. We've kind of touched on kind of the stuff that I've kind of wanted to go over, but I really like how, like, you kind of mentioned, like, the time of day, like, best times to fish really correlates with, like, the barometric pressure, graph that's listed right there on the app. Like, that's like makes perfect sense to have that sort of stuff there. It's awesome.
Yeah, and we're always building, always adding. So you got to keep going, keep adding more, keep making it better.
Yeah, one of the questions I had for you specifically to mapping stuff, Matt, was, do you guys ever have, like, I don't know what your corporate structure looks like, but do you have somebody in a meeting who's like, hey, what about this kind of map? And you're like, that's not possible. Like, do you ever think too big? Do you ever go too far and you're like, that doesn't really exist?
No, but I don't know. I mean, there are certainly limits, absolute limits. And if you look at, like, water temperature as an example, I think we have the best water temperature maps on Earth, but there's severe limitations because you're relying on the satellite passing every 8 days. You're relying on having clear, no clouds, because you have to mask out the clouds. Otherwise you get bad data. So it's severely limited. And actually, I think you'll see in the future, like, we're continuing to use AI coding technologies to try and build better models to try and understand what is the water temperature today in between those 8-day gaps between the satellite passes. So, but I have a funny story about that. I sold my first company to Lowrance, and I don't know if I told you this story, if you know this background for me, but I built the company with my business partner. It was a fantastic experience that is now the CMAP social layers, the maps, the vegetation, and the bottom hardness.
Yeah.
And we sold it to Lowrance, and the Lowrance office was down in Tulsa, and it's private equity owned, and they were like trying to figure out how to kind of unlock and continue to invest and build new technologies, not too different than what we're doing today.
Yeah.
And they brought in all of these consultants, and I don't know if you've ever worked with a consultant, but it can be maddening. And this goes right to your question, though. We were sitting around, we were talking about mapping, and this consultant said, we should do this. And I said, well, we just can't. And they said, Matt, I want you to imagine that anything's possible. So what would potentially be the thing that would prevent us from doing this? And I don't remember what the topic was, but I was like, well, physics, it actually isn't possible. You can't do it. And I'm quite imaginative. I'm willing to come with you on that journey, but this is not possible.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to let up on it, of course. No. Let's so yeah, it happens. People want more than what's possible.
People always say, like, there's no stupid questions.
That was a dumb one.
Yeah, no, there is. There is. So what I was going to ask you too is, have you ever thought of incorporating any, like, historical, or maybe you have it and I just didn't know it. Have you ever thought of incorporating historical, like, tournament information into the app for lakes?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't know where all that source of that data would be. I think it would be pretty manual.
Yeah.
There used to be a company called like Bass Gold or something like that. Are you familiar with that? It might even still be available, but probably not being updated. The guy that runs the Bass Blaster, he'd be happy that I mentioned this because he always cared like, hey, you can just buy this and incorporate it in. But there is some resource out there where they were managing and maintaining those sources. And I don't remember if it was national or if it was just a couple states, but there have been some people that have done that. I don't know that it's ever gone anywhere, but I think our fishing reports is an attempt to do that. If we sponsored tournaments a little bit better, maybe they would submit that information through the fishing report structure, because the structured data is really, really important, because that allows our system to ingest it and then push it back out in a meaningful way. So
you talking about Jay Kumar?
Exactly, that's right.
Yeah, he's pretty funny, dude. He puts out a lot of content. I don't know how that dude puts out so many videos. It's like every 5 seconds he's putting out like a 3-minute really edited video.
Yeah. He also wrote a book about Bigfoot. You ever want to look it up? So
I did not know. That used to be my thing, dude, on really night drives. And I do not believe one iota in Bigfoot, smallest bit. But I used to listen to, what the heck? I think it was called Sasquatch Chronicles, because it was just so dumb that it would like make me laugh and like keep me entertained, because they're not kidding. Like the people on the show are not kidding. Right. It was like something to keep me alive and awake. But if I was driving at 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, Sasquatch Chronicles. But
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, it's really
my
fun.
neighbor was dead serious. He handed me this book. He's like, you should read this. This will convince you.
And you're like, yep. I do really, really enjoy Harry and the Hendersons. That's a great movie. But that's about where it stops for me. Past that, I'm not really into it. Okay, so what's next for Omnia? And I know you probably can't reveal some of the mapping stuff and whatever, but what's on your radar? Where you want to take it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we're investing very heavily in paying a lot of attention to water temp. So our first release of water temp really was let's create what's possible today, and then let's get it out there, and then let's continue to refine it. And so we're putting a lot of energy into. So I can't tell you exactly what that'll look like, but we're doing a lot of testing for that right now. Sure. And then the next big one is really continuing to refine that pattern piece. We have, like I mentioned, 36,000 fishing reports, and our customers still go in and buy from those fishing reports. They review all of them. They sort, they filter. We've taken 2 approaches, and this is kind of a new feature in the app, but we try to give you the most recent fishing reports and the most relevant. And so you may see a fishing report that's from 4 years ago, but what we've tried to do is we've tried to lift a report there may be a report that's 2 weeks old, but if we have something that's 4 years ago that's closer to the current conditions or timeline that we're currently in, we will actually surface that old material, and all you have to do is just sort and filter by recent. So more improvements there, and then really on that patterning piece, we want to give a little bit of an easy button to breaking down lakes that have a lot of user-generated content. It's not going to be every lake, but there are a lot of lakes that have a lot of information, and we're continuing to find out what the limits are of building patterns based on the amount of fishing reports we have.
Dang, golly, you're an intelligent human running an intelligent company. I like that. I like the things that you're saying, because it's like a combination of sounding really smart, but also sounding like, oh, that makes sense. It's not it's not too much. You guys, when you're in planning meetings, board meetings, whatever your corporate structure is, do you look around at all? And I don't even mean within like the fishing industry, but like one of the companies I reference often is like Apple computers. Like they don't really actually invent anything. Like they basically just take stuff and sort of tweak it and whatever. But I know you're not an iPhone guy, but like the iPhone 17, whatever, like it's a pretty powerful tool, but it's also pretty intuitive. And it seems like Omnia is also a pretty powerful tool, but also pretty intuitive. And not everything works that way. Sometimes it's like, oh, but it can do all this, but you have to like go to college to figure it out. Do you guys look around for inspiration from other places at all?
A little bit. We're always trying to figure out how to service the general outdoorsman. And I'm glad you said that, like Omnia is not necessarily built for just the $100,000 boat guy. I mean, certainly we want to serve them too.
Yeah.
But we do look around and just say, are there little niche applications, or are there ways that we can improve the data layers to serve some of those other niches? I appreciate you saying that, because I don't always feel that way. I see all the warts, we spend so much time in it. There are a lot of things we'd like to make better, or we just don't know how to make better because there's so much information. So yeah, I don't know that we have a good solution for it, but we'll continue to put more in there, and I think continue to expand. One of the things, and I'd be curious on your thoughts on this, is because I think Apple does a really fantastic job of just execution and design. And, we've done things like we recently incorporated 3D contours, or 3D topography. So if you wanted to see like slope, or you wanted to think about like wind, especially when you get out west and you start seeing some of those bigger elevation changes, not only are you seeing the contours in the underwater, but you're also seeing the three-dimensional topography. And I don't know if that does anything, or if that adds any value, or if it just makes the app look great. And so I think we're always trying to figure out, what does the customer need? What are they looking for? Are we just clouding it up and make it too much? In the first company that I had, it's kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. We tried to automate the entire process. You upload your sonar log, we'll automatically create a map in like 5 minutes. And our joke was, at the time, Dr. Depth was our biggest competitor, but we said this called Dr. Depth because he had to have a PhD to figure out how to use it. And ours was completely hands-off. You just upload the stuff right in there. So
yeah,
we do look around, we pay attention to, like, is somebody doing something that's possible, that it's just too complex? But I sometimes feel like we slip into that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I was sort of leaning to. Like, anybody could pick up an iPhone and figure it out in like 5 minutes. It can do a lot, but it's simple enough and it's intuitive enough and it's easy. With Omnia, there's so many layers and so many things you could get maybe overwhelmed, but it's also laid out in a pretty intuitive way. So I just didn't know, is that the result of what you were referencing earlier, like having sort of test groups and focus groups, and like, does this work? Does this not work? What would you change? Do you do that a lot with even like just the layout of buttons and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. You learn so much just by looking over somebody's shoulder. And even in the early days, we would say, I want to find a girl and a boy and a rich guy and a poor guy and a $100,000 boat guy. And we bring in all these people and give them $25 and say, or $50 and say, spend it. And we don't tell them about it. We would bring non-anglers in. We would bring dads trying to get their kids fishing. We just say, here's $50, spend it. And actually that pattern thing that I was mentioning recently was kind of an unlock. One of my good buddies, I was at dinner with him, and he took out his cell phone, which, by the way, is like blind as a bat. So like everything was way bigger. And I was like, we need to make sure we account for that. And he spun it around. He said, where should I start? And I was like, really? You don't know? And he's like, no, I just tell me where you would start. And I immediately opened up. I clicked on his lake. He lives up by Leech. Clicked on his lake. And I don't know much about Leech Lake. I fished it a few times, but I don't know. And I just clicked on the patterns. And I looked at, you could see that, there's a lot of smallmouth and walleye reports. But in that fish pattern section, that gave me a launching pad. And I learned something very quickly. And I said, this is where I would start and this is where I would go fishing. And after I looked at the pattern, I would start looking at individual fishing reports, and I'd look for the person holding the biggest fish. And I think what we came away with, is maybe 5 weeks ago, it was like, we need to be in 6 to 12 feet of water, and I need to find that submerged vegetation, or there's rice or something like that. Yeah. And then I started looking through fishing reports, and he just like started shaking his head, and he picked up his chat or his phone, and he clicked on one of his texts. And it was a kid who had just sent him a picture, and it was like, I'm in 8 feet of water and I just caught this huge pig. And it was like everything that I said from the pattern was what this kid was saying. And I was like, we have to capture this. We have to figure out how to tell people about this.
That's Chuck's bait shop, honestly.
That's awesome. Chuck's bait shop. That's Chuck's. And like that kid didn't want to share that information with everybody, but it's in there. The pattern's in there. And you still have to go do the work. Now, where's 6 to 12 feet of water? Pull up Navionics, look at the map. Whereas, and where's rice? I'm pulling up Google Earth. It's like, so we could break this down, but it caused us to have a conversation. I think that's a super important part of being successful in the waters, having that plan.
Yeah, man, I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Nate, what do you use most on Omnia? Like what like map layer? Like what's your go-to? Like when you're chewing through something, looking at a body of water. And I know you mostly fish like the same stuff on the river, but when you got to fish something new, what are you looking at?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead.
No, I want to hear. This is user testing. I'm curious.
Yeah, so that's typically what I'll look for is the contours and the depths, like, because fishing the river, it seems like the majority of the fish are going to be in very similar depth ranges. So I'll stretch the length of the river, the pool that I'm fishing, and try to find those depth ranges that are also going to be either close to the main river or somewhere where they have good flow in and out of spawning areas and stuff like that. So that's typically what I'm looking for. So that way, like early time of the year, like now, I where are either going, or B, where they're going to kind of be heading out of and staging up next. So that's about it for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for me, nobody asked me, but I'm just going to spit it out anyway. It's basically the same thing, but then on the Omnia side, I like to, like on the Omnia Pro, I like to then, if I find something that I think is good, then I'll start flipping between layers and look at bottom hardness. I'm like, okay, well, that I thought was that's just muck. That's not it. Or flip through vegetation, or because you can really like fine tune if you think you have any idea what you're going after, like species wise, if it's smallmouth or largemouth or whatever, and you have a working knowledge of like, this time of year, they're probably going to be looking for this, or they're in this phase. Okay, so that bottom hardness, that's not it. Right depth, wrong bottom hardness. Get rid of that spot. Go to the next one. Okay, so that one checks the box of bottom hardness and depth. Vegetation's not exactly right, whatever. But then, when you start going through different layers, you can really like come to this confluence of like, dude, this spot is going to be dope. Before you ever wet a line, you can know like, okay, so it checks the box of bottom hardness. Surface temp is pretty close to what I was hoping it was going to be for this kind of presentation. Vegetation, contour lines are stacked up. It's a good drop nearby, so they can have quick access. Or, if you're looking for a big expansive flat for spawning smallies or whatever, you start kind of going through, as opposed to just like it checks this box, like on a topo map, and now it checks all these boxes. You can be so much more sure, have a little more confidence going in. And I don't know, that's what I like to do. I like to kind of just like toggle back and forth between the layers until I can kind of like, all right, so these are my first 3 spots. If they don't work out, I'll figure something out. But this is where I like to start off at, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense. I actually just recently had somebody, because I think we should talk about the vegetation and bottom hardness as layers together if you're toggling between them, because those layers are also limited, and we're willing to admit they're limited, but they're really interesting when you think about how they work together. And so I actually recently had so you're not the first person that told me they did really great in the Derby as a result of looking at some of these layers. So I love seeing that stuff. And I actually had somebody tell me that what they did is they looked at those layers together, and this is a social layer. So people have to submit their contour logs to Lowrance and then a CMAP, and then CMAP actually processes all this information and then makes it publicly available. And they source and they merge it all together. And the vegetation is interesting because let's talk about the warts. Again, I always think about the warts.
Of course.
The vegetation is an absence presence layer. So there's either vegetation there or no vegetation. Vegetation changes every year. Vegetation gets nuked by plant managers. There's coontail, and then there's curly, there's pond weed. There's some vegetation that comes up in the spring and dies off in the summer. It's a tricky thing to understand exactly how that vegetation layer works. And you may go to where you think vegetation line is, and it might not be exactly where it is, but it's going to give you a really interesting indication. If there's no vegetation growing, it could have been that it wasn't surveyed. But if you see that there's a bottom hardness layer in that spot, it means there's a pretty good indication that no vegetation exists in that area. And what we see for the most part is that when you see a really hard bottom, the roots can't take root and you don't get vegetation growth. Right. So what you end up with is a pretty consistent year over year area where the vegetation isn't growing because the substrate is so like dense or rocky that sound is coming back to that transducer so strong. We know that's a very hard bottom, that the vegetation is not growing. So that's the way to, I think, really break down the water body to see that relationship. What ends up happening is those fish do move through that vegetation. They find that rocky substrate and they sit right on that line.
Yep.
So if you can find that combination of absence of vegetation, and you know that area was surveyed, and you know that area had hard bottom, there's a pretty good chance that's a good spot to check out.
Totally.
So it's an interesting breakdown, and that's one of the ways that I start to think about how those layers can be beneficial.
Yeah. What you were just saying makes so much sense to me. I'll never forget as a kid, this is going to show just how dorky I am, but I remember watching like bass fishing shows, and I remember, I think it was KVD, but somebody was talking about the spot where vegetation runs into either a different kind of vegetation or vegetation runs into a hard spot. Like there's just going to be fish there. Like if you can find it, which isn't always easy, but if you can, there's going to be fish there. That's why I was just looking on my phone. I wasn't being rude. I wasn't like sending a text message or something. But I was looking on my phone at a spot I was just fishing this last week, and then I decided like I'm not going to put that on blast, but to see if it was actually
saving that one.
Yeah, because I was cracking some pretty good small jaws there, so I'm not going to say anything. But if you can find that confluence, that's a very high percentage going to hold fish area. And with the Omnia Pro, you could just kind of cut back the time it takes to find those. And who doesn't want to do that? Who wants to spend more time looking at maps when you can get the same amount of info or maybe more in less time? It's like when you go to a YouTube, how to change the oil in your wife's minivan. Are you watching the 3-minute video or the 2-hour video? Like if you can get the same info shorter, I don't know. Omnia just kind of cuts through the baloney, I feel like.
Yeah, we had that big ad campaign with Seth. You just do it while you're taking your dumps, and you just look at maps, find your spots, drop your waypoints, and
drop your deuce, drop your waypoint. That was
exactly that. Now that we're talking,
wasn't
the natural marketer, Jordan.
Yeah. Wasn't that your idea, Matt? The poop thing? Wasn't that your idea? The toilet thing?
Yeah, I don't know if Seth mentioned that, but I got this stupid idea, and I was so nervous to pitch it to him. I was like, he's going to say no way. And instead he turned, because my idea was to have Seth reject it. And just, he'd be like, I'm not doing this. And we just kind of force him into it. But he was like, I don't think that's on brand for me. I think I have to be all about it and have the other guys in the marketing room pushing back on it. So he was.
And the video's hilarious because he's all like little kid smiling, giddy, stoked on it. Yeah. So how can I ask? I don't think I asked him when we had him on. I don't think I asked you last time. How did the relationship with you, Omnia and Seth come together? Because it seems like business, but it also seems like really buddy.
Well, yeah. So Seth has been involved since day one. He was the first guy that we started running these ideas past. I was not friends with Seth. When I worked for Lowrance, I had hired a guy. It's kind of a long string, but I had hired a guy who was his fishing partner was actually, I think, helping manage Seth's career and some of his sponsorships at the time.
Okay.
And I was good friends with those guys, and they had just mentioned, Seth's a really good resource, and he's kind of he's growing really quickly, and things are changing fast for him. So we pitched him on the idea, and he got pretty excited about it. It was really natural. He said, like, as a bass angler in Minnesota, where everybody was just like catch and eat walleye anglers, it was weird for him, but he was really into bass. If you look, he still wears the old jacket his dad had from fishing bass tournaments and stuff, and it just hadn't taken hold in Minnesota quite like it. So that was a real problem for him, is to try and find out information and then shop for bass tackle. And so it kind of landed with him pretty quickly. It's like, all things in one place. And Omnia is Latin for all things. So it just like made sense. And he really took to it really quickly.
Huh. Yeah. He's gotta be honestly the most like unicorn creature in bass fishing.
Yeah.
You know
it's
what I'm
all
saying?
Real too. Like he's not playing a part.
But he has so many videos of him just smoking cigarettes and talking about like swim jigs and nobody's offended and nobody's like mad when he cusses, and he does things that somebody else would do and people would get offended or weird or whatever, but everybody else loves him for it. I think people can just, you know how I just said a second ago, like Omnia cuts through the baloney. I think in 2026 with social media and everything else, there's a weird tendency for people to want to be like fake, but I think with enough exposure to YouTube and social media, people can smell the baloney more.
Yeah.
And there's just no smell of fakeness with Seth. No matter what he does or what he says, you just sort of believe him. You know what I mean?
You're right. I think that's true. I think it's true. It's always been, he knew who he was at the beginning and he wasn't willing to change that. So I think it's worked out really well for him. And he won't work with companies that he doesn't believe in. He's definitely held those values. But yeah, I agree. Like we've come up with ideas, and I'll say that we do the Fish with Seth giveaway, and the amount of people that enter that and send us letters about how he's an inspiration for them and he's the reason that they wanted to fish, and it's pretty incredible. I make sure that he sees as much as I can. So it's pretty awesome. Incredible.
Yeah, I was gonna send you one that said like he's the reason I want to smoke cigarettes, but I didn't know if that same ring. But you know what I'm saying?
That's real. There was a guy who's just sent an entry and he like included an empty box of Marlboro Lights, and he's like, I want to show you I do actually smoke. As if that might help him get randomly selected.
Yeah, he's going to the Darty party with Seth. That's awesome, dude. I love that. Well, let's talk while we're on that wavelength. You mentioned the word earlier, ambassadors and whatever. Where in your sort of like marketing plan or whatever did you guys decide? Because it seems like it's been a thing and the other thing is Omnia's only been around since what, 18, 19?
Yeah, late 19. 2020 was really when we started.
Okay. So, I mean, you guys have really, I mean, holy moly, like you're killing it for how young you are in the game, and not
for sure
game, but as far as like the Omnia product out to the public, like that's not a very long time. But where along the line did you decide that like a big part of your marketing strategy would be having ambassadors? And like, we were just talking to a guy, the episode will actually drop tomorrow. And if you've ever heard of Jake Bagwell, Fishing with JB on like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, he's just putting up silly numbers between like his own videos and reposting other people's videos with his own silly commentary, like, 80 million views a month, like crazy stuff. And we were talking to him, like, what is a pro bass fisherman anymore? Because it's not like the days of Roland Martin and all that stuff. You guys seem to have jumped on that train of like podcasts and influencers and whomever early. Was that an early on idea? Like, let's have these people be ambassadors as opposed to just only professionals, quote unquote?
Yeah, we always thought that the ambassador program that we were launching was going to be important, and we could surface and put people in the public eyes as the experts on this stuff. But I think what we ended up finding is that people had to build an external audience, and then we would collaborate. And those are the experts. This goes back to Omnia means different things to different people. And the pro subscription or the layers mean different things to different people, depending on where you are. And I think us trying to say, like, specifically being loyal or being kind of honest about who you are is like, I'm not a fantastic bass angler. I've like fished everywhere and done everything, and I've mastered none of it. So to me, to try and pretend or build an audience to try to say like, hey, I can tell you how to be a better angler, I think would be a huge mistake. And we need to leave it in the hands of the people who truly are those experts, and then the people who are experts within their geography. So it was kind of a strategic plan that as we started to bring in products that appealed to somebody in Missouri and started to appeal to somebody in the Southeast and Florida and Texas, we were very intentional about it, and we tried to bring in somebody who was a voice for that area or had the audience for that area, and then we kind of hitch wagons to them, because I think we can align really well. We give them the tools to be successful on the retail side and also on the subscription side. But I'd say in the last 2 years, that's become even more apparent. We don't run any ads. We don't have any Facebook ads. We don't spend any money on that stuff because it just doesn't work for us. Yeah. It's for some reason it's not authentic enough, or it just doesn't connect. And if we're willing to spend $250 to go acquire a customer, then Facebook would be great, and we could scale super, super fast with $100 million in the bank. Right. But if you want to scale the right way, that it has to be with that audience and that voice of trust. Yeah. And we've had ambassadors that we have sat us down and said, I need another hour of your time because I had to ask you a whole bunch of questions about how this works because I just don't feel confident talking about your product yet. And we make that investment in those people. And honestly, those are the ones that end up being the best partners. They're the ones that really are authentic. They're the ones that want to dive in deep. They sometimes have criticisms and will fix and make changes for them. But I think our relationship ends up coming very authentic, and then Omnia Pro and those maps end up being the backdrop for what's typically educational information anyway. And it ends up being a pretty natural relationship.
Yeah, and I think that works out really well for you too, especially on platforms that are video based. Education is always like a thing that's not just right now, but people will go back to it to watch it again or whatever. Somebody's breaking down how they use Omnia or what have you. Do you guys have like a vetting process in terms of, because it seems like I'm kind of if I'm being honest with you, I can be kind of a jerk sometimes. I'm just overly critical of things, but there's nobody on like the Omnia ambassador side of things that I'm like, oh dude, who is that? Like it's like people who are respected. It's people who know what they're talking about. Hellevass and Serious Angler and like our buddy Caleb Wisted and like the pros you have. Like it's people who actually know what they're talking about. How do you come up with the names? Is it people who come to you? Do you go after them? What does that look like?
It's a combination of both. We pursue and we are pursued. We have somebody that's their main focus, and they spend a lot of time thinking about that. So, there's kind of a vetting process who say like, we need somebody in this geography, what's the top 15 names, and we'll kind of look through and watch their content and see which one we think is kind of we want to be real natural with it.
Yeah. I think that's good. Cause again, I think people can, it's weird. Like the age we live in, Nate and I have talked about this ad nauseum, but like, anybody can jump off on YouTube and be like, hey, here's how you work a jerk bait. And you're like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. Like your form is weird. You're not pointing the tip of the rod back at the bait when you're done with the pop. And like, you're doing it on tight lines instead of slap, whatever. But anybody can just be like an online expert, even though they're not. But I think you guys do a good job of getting the right ambassador. So when they do speak, it's not like, oh, shut up. That dude does not know what he's talking. You know what I'm saying? It's authentic.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of little Seth fighters without the cool hair and the mustache.
Yeah. I had this idea for a content series. It doesn't really matter what you do, but your whole content series is about you explaining how you do things, and then you bring in somebody who actually knows what the hell they're talking. So like you'd be in like my kitchen, and I would make a meal for you, and then we'd bring in a chef to show you how you actually cook. Yep. And I always thought that'd be pretty entertaining. You just like out everybody for how much. But fishing's interesting because fishing, there is a proper way to make a roux in cooking. And you go to school to learn how to make a roux, and it's objectively yes or no, this is good or bad. And fishing, like it's a lot of gray. And so that's what's that's what I think is both interesting but also a big challenge for our industry.
Yeah. There's not really outside like the laws, like the DNR, there's not really it's, honestly, not to sound like a dork, but it's like tacos. Like you could put anything in a taco. It doesn't matter if you like this with that sauce or whatever, it's fine. Fishing is the same way. Like I've seen some dudes, like especially at derbies, you do that thing like where you're looking over on somebody else's deck to see what they got on, and they have just the dumbest crap tied on. It just looks so dumb, like the weirdest trailer on their, and they come back and absolutely kicked your skull in, and you're like, okay, all right, like that shouldn't have worked, but it did, and I don't know. Like I was just throwing at a derby recently, Matt. I don't know if you guys sell it on Omnia, the Evergreen Bow Noodle Worm. I don't know if you've seen this thing. It's a 12-inch worm. It's massive. It's paper thin. It weighs next to nothing. The package looks ridiculous. It's huge. Like it's like a foot plus long. You can't fit it in anywhere because it's so massive and you don't want to fold it over. But I caught the living frick out of them on it on a wacky rig because when you throw it, it just kind of does this really soft shimmy down. It looks dumb as crap, but it works. That's fishing, man. I had an idea a long time ago, Matt, to do a how-to video series called How To Now You, where basically you do like a how-to on how to do something specific, and then you have somebody step in who's never done it and let them try it like immediately just to see how hard. It's kind of your same idea, but from the other side of it, I guess.
And a little bit like the Pinterest fails. Is that what the?
Yeah. Yeah, just like seemed like it would work. And do you remember those ones back in the day, like when people would order stuff on like wish.com and they would get like a throw
What it
rug
was
that was
supposed to be.
this big? Yeah. Or a dress that was the size of your foot. That crap was so funny, dude. Nate, what do you got left, buddy? I know I talk too much. I'm sorry, man.
No, yeah, you're good. So we talked a little bit about the ambassadors and stuff. So the ambassadors are the ones that are doing these fishing reports, putting out that information to to the public for the community there. What do you know off the top of your head? What is like the most reported area on Omnia, or what that would be?
I don't. I would say I could look. What's interesting is that it used to be Minnesota, Wisconsin, but that's slowly changing, and we're getting so much content that's filling in outside of the upper Midwest that I think that's slowly going away. It's probably still Minnesota, just because that was home and that's where we started. But I think it's like our fastest growing is the Northeast, California, Texas, and like Georgia, Florida.
Huh.
So pretty well distributed. And I'm hoping that this new water level dam layer that we've launched, you can get real-time hourly reports on what the water level is. It's available now in the app. I'm hoping that will actually attract some more Tennessee, Kentucky customers. We'll see a little bit more growth there, but there's still quite a bit of content in some of those major lakes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a really good feature for that region, TVA stuff.
Yeah, but generally, I mean, we think of ambassadors in two different categories. One that represent Omnia and do external audience content with us, and then there's just the general ambassador, that people that file fishing reports. The more reports, the more high quality reports. Every single report that comes through the system is reviewed by our team, and the more high quality reports that you file moves you up in the ambassador status in Omnia and allows you to get more credits when people buy off your fishing reports. It lifts and ranks you higher. So if 10 people file a report, the gold ambassador is going to rank higher in that, and they're going to see your fishing report and probably get a better chance of a conversion.
And anybody can do that, file fishing reports.
Anybody can do that. That's right.
I knew that. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I'm always just looking at everybody else rather than filing my own. How do you, Matt, one thing I like about Omnia too, again, I'm not just trying to blow your head up, but just stuff that I've noticed. How do you come up with the people on your team as far as like all the guys doing videos? Cause there's half a dozen dudes who are like staples doing videos for Omnia, from like, the homie Aaron Teal to like all these dudes who are doing videos on the water, how to rig this, how to rig that. Oh, new this week at Omnia with whatever. Where do you come up with these people?
Yeah, the number's not quite as big as that, but because we have, these are kind of external relationships, but we do have some really talented people. And I'd recommend Ben Stone's one of our best content creators. And I'd recommend you check out his channel. He does a lot of musky stuff and just fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of these are just long-standing relationships, people in the industry. And then, Aaron Teal is an example. He's got a really good eye for product, and he's doing a lot of JDM work right now. Yeah. And so we give him our platform. He's helpful to us. It's very symbiotic. We kind of work in both directions, and it's beneficial to both groups. So we just try to do the right thing and partner with the right people. We end up with a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Aaron Teal, I never knew that he was like a JDM junkie, and then found out that he's got his own like JDM company, and yeah, he's all about it.
Series, yeah,
the whole thing. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But one other thing I was going to ask you about was, we talked about it briefly on the show, just for poops and giggles, because we care about both companies, even though we're not affiliated. Tell us about, if you could, and I know it's not new now, but tell us a little bit about the, I don't know what you want to call it, merger, amalgam, whatever, with Thorne Brothers.
Yeah. So it's been going for about 7 months now. What we found was that it was hard to run we thought that the pro subscription and all the mapping focus and the retail component could essentially be run and would live in harmony. And we found that just the resources that are required to run both was incredible. And we've known the Thorn guys for a really long time. We talked about, what does a scenario look like where we pushed all the orders in your direction, and then you helped us service our loyalty component. You guys are better at inventory. You guys are better at that whole process, and they do such a great brick and mortar business that it was a good opportunity to expand their transaction volume. And so we built a partnership. They took all the inventory, and we processed everything through those guys. So yeah, it was ability for us to reduce our footprint. We don't have a big warehouse facility anymore. They already had a big warehouse. So it really was just an efficiency play, to try and reduce some of the overhead of running both companies that felt very independent. So yeah, things are off and running, and we're still figuring it out and navigating some kinks. We just announced that the in-store pickup that we used to offer is now available up in Blaine at their store. So any of the Metro anglers that used to buy from us and they would come in and pick up their orders, or, during the weekends and Thursdays and Fridays, it'd be 100 orders. They can now do that at the Blaine store, and they can go shop in the Blaine store and immediately get a discount if they're already pro. So that you're still continuing to refine and work those details out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and Thorn Brothers is just so respected, in the muskie world. I know they've been about more than muskie stuff too, but I mean, I think that's kind of their juice. That's their bread and butter. But yeah, that's awesome, man. What a cool combo.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been
yeah, good for you. That's rad. So I mean, I feel like we've talked a lot about stuff, but let me ask you a couple things that are maybe more important. When's the last time you had a good taco, Matt?
It was taco night last night at home.
Okay, and was it good?
Do you guys get it? Do you know what picadillo is?
Picadillo. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like you don't mean pica de gallo. You mean like something picadillo? Right. No, I don't know. No.
So there is a place, and I'm blanking on the name here. I live in Roseville in Minnesota, and I'm blanking on the name of the taco joint, but they had this picadillo, and it's basically like ground meat with small chopped up potatoes and small chopped up carrots and tomato sauce. And I was like, I'm making that. And we made it last night, and it was absolutely fantastic. I still needed somebody to come and show me how you actually make it, like to my content idea. But the kids just destroy it. So that was the last time I had a good tacos. I made it at home. Picadillo.
I've never even heard of that. That sounds super weird, but also kind of awesome.
Look it up. It's good. And it's a nice way to make your meat go a little further. You throw a couple potatoes in there, some carrots, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, last time we had you on, you told us about a bunch of good, like kind of hole in the wall spots over there in the city somewhere. And you invited us to come up and have some with you. We never partook of it. What's that all about, dude? Jeez.
That's a good question. I need to come your way as well, because I love Eau Claire, my old stomping grounds from college. But
yeah,
I am going to try a new spot this weekend. There's a place called Malcolm Yards. It's one of those, they take an old abandoned like warehouse facility or big old cool brick building, and then put a bunch of tables and chairs down the middle and a bunch of stalls and vendors down, and they're known for some of the tacos. So that's going to be high on my list, and I'll report back as soon as
you got to
send me a picture.
Awesome.
Yeah, you got to let us know. Picadillo, though, I got to look. Have you heard of that, Nate? Picadillo?
I have not, no, but it does sound similar to. I've had some like enchiladas with that same sort of filling. So I wonder it'd be something similar to that. So
yeah. So not to get all dark and sad, but if you do ever actually come back to Eau Claire and we can go get tacos, Matt, I was planning on taking you to my favorite spot. It was called Guac and Roll, but they actually just shut it up. They just closed up Tuesday.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of like they were in downtown Eau Claire, right on Barstow, and I think their rent just kept on going up and up and up, and they, between that and they were awesome. Some of the best tacos I've ever had. They had the thing called the Barstow burrito, and that's what made me think of it when you said the picadillo. Is it had French fries in the burrito, and I remember thinking like that's like the least authentic thing ever, but it's kind of not, because like in enchiladas and apparently in picadillo there is potatoes, so it's sort of similar. But that place was super dope. So we'll have to go somewhere else if you ever come up here, Matt.
We'll do that. And then I got a place to bring you. I don't know if I ever brought this one up, but we moved offices a little bit east, and there's a place there called El Taco Riendo, and real authentic food and just incredible meats. And that's been my go-to for a burrito when I don't have time to make my lunch. And they've got some pretty fantastic stuff. Have you ever had lingua? So like cow tongue?
Yeah, for sure.
One of my favorites, and they make really fantastic stuff. So we'll have to go get it.
Yeah, I'm not like with all foods. I'm not what's that dude's name? Anthony Bourdain or whatever. I'm not quite like trying crazy stuff. Or what was that other fellow who had a show? It's called like Ugly Delicious or something. I'm not doing that, but I'm pretty down to take a risk. Nate, I don't even know that about you. Are you a risky guy with tacos, or do you keep it pretty vanilla?
No, yeah, I'm always down to try something new. I don't get too shook as long as it doesn't not an onion. I'm good with it.
Oh yeah, I forgot you hate onions. Nate, Matt, have either one of you ever had a brain taco?
I have not. That scares me.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. Long story short, I had a buddy named Brandon. Well, he's still my buddy. But he had a thing called, I think it's called MexicanFoodQC.com or something when they lived in the Quad Cities. So he would basically just go around to all these Mexican joints, hole in the walls, and then he'd do a full-blown video and write up on them. And it got really popular for a while. And so he had all the inside juice on like the taco joints. And he brought me to this one in Moline where they don't even really speak English. It was called like Casa Mexicana or something like that. I can't remember what it's called now, but he's like, dude, you got to try the blah, blah, blah. I can't remember how they called it, brain taco. And I was like, no way, dude. Like, no, I'm telling you. He's like, the crazy thing is it comes out like if there's a brain, like if they cut a small section out of it, it's not even chopped up. Like you can see the little like divot. Yeah, crazy. But they put it in a chalupa shell. So it's like a half fried shell or like a medium fried, as they call it, with like green sauce and like Chihuahua cheese. And it was incredible. And it was super expensive. It was like one little taco and it was like $17 or something for the one taco. And it was amazing. So, sometimes you got to take a risk.
I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of
wild.
Kind of weird, but really good.
I thought that was like we're not supposed to eat brains because you like can't cook the prions out or something, and you get it in your brain. And
I don't know.
you made it. I see. This is where I thought you were gonna say. Like I had this buddy, but he ate a brain taco, and I got him.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. I think I'm all right. I'm old and I'm still kicking. I'm still eating tacos, still fishing. But yeah, Nate, you got anything else for Matt before we let him get out of here? But this was awesome learning more about Omnia.
No, nothing new I can think of. I'm gonna have to check out that water level layer more because that would be pretty vital here on the Mississippi River Pool 13 area. So I'm gonna look more into that and keep an eye on it. So yeah, nothing else that I can think of.
You said that's
that data is in there. So let me know if you have trouble finding it, but it's in there.
Yeah, that's really smart, man. I can't wait to see what you guys come out with next. Not only because it's like new and whatever, but it's practical stuff. I don't know if you heard the little comparison I made about Omnia, but it's like a skate park designed by skateboarders. Like it's stuff that just makes sense. Like it's obvious that fishermen have their hand in this. It's not some weird investment firm off to the side, like, oh, make a layer about fish hooks or like, something stupid that doesn't make any sense. Like actually it's all really intuitive and all makes fishing a little bit more fun, a little bit more efficient, effective, all that. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Well, and I like all your questions. I really appreciate you, asking about the team and all that, because they deserve a lot of credit for this. Definitely. I mean, I can look at layers and I can say, that was Chase, I know these are these people who care about this stuff because they want it for themselves, that's a good way to build an app. That's a good way to build anything is when the people in charge are the ones that want it for themselves.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, all right, brother. Well, I appreciate you. We'll touch base if you do come out here to the east to Eau Claire. I got you. We'll go get some tacos.
You got it. Let's do
it. All right, man. We'll bug you later. Thanks, man.
See you guys. Thanks again.
Peace.
Bye-bye. All right. So that was Matt Johnson. Like I said, I love that it's a very intelligent, very data dense app, but it's put out there in a way that's like easy to use. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like confusing. I have a picture of it up on the screen right now. There's little icons, there's weather, there's waypoints that you can put in. It's just really smart. And if you're fishing, why wouldn't you want to fish more efficiently? Why wouldn't you want to catch more fish? Why wouldn't you want to not waste time? You know what I mean? Like in this, that's really the bottom line. And then the cool thing is obviously, yeah, you can buy stuff through it too. They have a huge, extensive, what would you call it? Product line, Nate, of stuff you can buy from there. So it's not just the mapping, although that's what we were focused on tonight. But the other cool thing is, like he was saying, is if you go to the map and then you see a fishing report from Nate Conklin on pool 13, it says, oh, they're hitting on the, I don't know what, jig head minnow with the blah, 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 blah. You can literally click that link and buy it directly from the store. Like it connects the dots so well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that part's like, we talked about it the last time he was on, but it's just so freaking smart to have a feature like that. Is just it's really awesome to go from a report to gain the knowledge, to find the bait, find the color, click on it, buy it up, and get it, and have at least an idea of what to do with it, even if it's something completely new to you. So yeah, it's rad for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at like some of the weather stuff, having the wind, the temperature and wind direction, and all that right there, to where you can plan a day of practice a couple days before a tournament and kind of relate it to what the weather is supposed to be come that day of the tournament. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of, honestly, like it's like a modern version of again, I don't know if anybody else was quite as nerdy with this stuff as I was as a kid. But if I watched like something cheesy, even like the banjo minnow or the flying lure or the helicopter lure, I would watch a show and I would like write down this stuff. I still remember way back in the day, one of your favorite baits, Nate, sweet beavers, when Reaction Innovations came out with the sweet
Right.
beavers.
Yeah.
Really, like if we're being for real, outside of like the Zoom, like brush hog or something, and obviously the sweet beaver is nothing like the brush hog, but I mean like in terms of like didn't really necessarily directly imitate anything in nature. You know what I'm saying? Like people will say, oh, the sweet beaver is like a crawdad. Not really. It's kind of its own deal, but I still remember the first time I saw a fishing show with the sweet beaver and I wrote it down because it was like, well, dude, if this thing really catches them like they say it does, I'm going to remember that and I'm going to go get some at the store. Well, now if you are watching something or you're on the Omnia map and you see a report that says, oh, this exact jackal riser bait, you can click the link directly. There is no writing it down, trying to remember and whatever. It's just like bink, like you just connect those dots so quick. And then like you said, you can start getting more specific for tournaments, or you can look on the maps for your family fishing trip, or I don't know. I'm just so pumped on it. And again, we are not sponsored by Omnia. Not in any way, shape, or form. So these endorsements are coming from a place of actual belief in the product. So check it out, omniafishing.com. Don't forget, we have the 1,000 giveaway deal going on YouTube still. When we get there, you're going to get a whole bunch of free stuff if you win. Nate, anything else before we get out of here?
No, we killed it. Matt was awesome, as usual. Like you said, we speak about Omnia's greatness solely because it's a product we believe in. We don't get paid for it. They don't give us anything for it. It's just really that dope. So check it out.
That's exactly right. Yep. Until the next one, remember, positivity is worth the effort.
Peace.
Bye-bye.